Hey guys, welcome back. Hoping you're all doing okay in this pretty trying time. Hoping none of you guys have been hit too hard by the crash. But I wanted to share my thoughts around the recent events related to Terra Luna, because I did put out a video not more than a few days ago talking about the protocol or the chain, and since then quite a lot has happened. As you can see on the screen here, the price has dropped down from nearly 100 where we're hovering around the $80 mark for a while, and then we kind of dropped down to 13 cents is where it is now, and it looks like it's continuing its free fall for various reasons. And I'm not going to necessarily recap exactly the intimate detail of what's happened. I'm sure most of you that are in crypto have kind of been following along and know what's going on. But if you haven't, the short summary is that the UST did lose its peg a few days ago. You can see it was hovering around $1 as it tends to do, and it became depegged a couple of days ago, and there was some action taken to try and repeg it. It went back up to, I think, about 93 cents or even 95 cents by the looks of it here on Binance, and it looked to be holding, and then it kind of crashed again as all confidence in the coin was lost, dropping down to a low here, and this is on Binance. It could be different on chain, but around 22 cents to the dollar. Since then, we've got a slow recovery slash, will it recover? We don't know. It hasn't been a good time for holders of Luna or UST. And so why did this happen? Look, I've seen a few theories, one of them revolving around, I guess it was Citadel in the note that was shared by a few people. I think that theory has been pretty much debunked. But what seems to have happened at the moment is some sort of market manipulation. Potentially, someone found a method of attack and was able to make some money shorting Luna or shorting UST, and essentially causing it to depeg, and the bottom just drops out of this very quickly. And so I think at this stage we don't know if it's kind of an attack, or if it is related to just the general volatility in the market at the moment, and maybe some inherent risks and instability around the UST token. So I've been pretty positive on Luna and the Terra ecosystem, and this is on a personal level, this has left me feeling pretty disappointed, and I guess I wanted to kind of share my thoughts with you guys. So the first thing I think we need to ask ourselves was this on the cards all along? The risks were known. In my last video, I did talk about the risk of depegging, and called out the fact that it happened in the past. And sometimes we talk about risks when they're related to crypto, and consider them, but we don't really acknowledge, perhaps, or to the extent that we should, that those risks are real and they could happen. And this is a prime example of those risks basically happening, and I think we need to be honest with ourselves about that. Because I don't think it helps to say, well, we couldn't have known this was coming. All signs pointed to, long-term stability. I think the risks were there. I think, maybe we didn't acknowledge them as much as we should, or given them as much weight as we should. And I think there's just no way of telling at this stage until all the facts come out whether this was an attack-based issue, whether someone had found a vulnerability, took advantage of that vulnerability, made a lot of money, and in the as a byproduct that just happened to take the whole thing down with them, or if this is kind of a ticking time bomb and it would have just happened eventually. I don't think we really know that at this stage, but we do know that the risks were there and they were talked about. I've found someone shared on Reddit this article, which I'll link in the description, dated April the 5th. So over a month ago, why the protocol will almost certainly fail. And this is a really interesting read in that it has pretty much predicted exactly what has happened in this case to UST. And the bottom line being that, well, the algorithm can maintain a peg on some level in the short term when there's still some confidence left in the system. But what we've seen here is a complete breakdown in confidence and high levels of people exiting the chain, which just results in that peg kind of further breaking and this kind of downward spiral that we've seen happen. Yeah, and if you see this line here, when people realize this, they have an incentive to sell. Loss of trust becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is a really interesting read, and just shows that, look, the information was out there, and this is, when we look at crypto and these chains, it is very complicated. It's very hard often to distinguish between what is real risk, what is people really just speaking the truth, and what is FUD. And I think that's the part of, I guess, the lessons that you learn being in the space is trying to work out what the difference is and how do you tell the difference, because it's very easy to get caught up in echo chambers and to kind of ignore risks while at the same time acknowledging it. And you see people do that all the time, saying there's risks here, but really, are you really acknowledging that risk is real? And I think that this this experience has taught me that these risks are real. And, I've had ups and downs in crypto before and losses related to, markets shifting. But I think this is the first time I've seen something absolutely just collapse in the way that it has because of its underlying risks that were, I guess, known. Nothing new has come out. But those risks that seemed pretty extreme, like, Luna was the third largest blockchain by TVL. And it's almost a too big to fail scenario. And there's just no such thing in traditional finance or in DeFi. These real risks can eventuate. And I think this really kind of just drives that home. And for me, it's changed my thinking. I've been looking at some other protocols. I'll give an example. One of them is yield nodes. I've seen a lot of YouTubers talk about yield nodes, and I was doing some investigation into them and how they operate and where they make their money and how they return these high yields. And I was considering investing and seeing how it goes, doing a video letting you guys know about it, because I saw nothing in there that kind of made it seem like it was dishonest or any kind of shady business, but the risks were always there. And you look at the KYC form that you have to fill out when you deposit in yield nodes, and it explicitly says, hey, you can lose all your money. It's very easy to look at that and think, well, it's not going to happen. Look at past performance. This thing has been returning well for a long time. It's very unlikely. And if it happens, it's going to be a big deal because a lot of people are going to lose money. None of that stuff protects you. It's, it could very easily happen, especially if you're handing over your money to something to a contract that you're not in control of. It can really happen. So I think this has really changed my thinking and how I view risk in crypto in general, and I think it's going to have an impact on my outlook going forward. But look, apart from that, I'm really disappointed for what this means for crypto. in general. I'm prepared to weather general ups and downs in the market, long crypto winters, and I've talked about how I do that moving in and out of stablecoins a couple of times. Completely understand that the market goes up, it goes down. Sometimes you can spend a lot of time going down, and I'm not too worried about. I tried to hedge my investments against that kind of volatility. But the reason I'm disappointed is because I did believe in, I think, the Terra, mission or what they were doing. I made a long video explaining why Terra was so promising in the future of crypto, because it was focusing on accessibility and utility. And it's really sad to me that vision has fallen apart. It just wasn't meant to be, at least not in that current iteration. And more than that, I feel like the vision of crypto as like a fully fledged, mature, stable alternative to the financial system has taken a big hit. It's shown we're still very much in our infancy here. We're very much reliant on traditional financial systems, to the extent that that's really where all the value in crypto still comes from and where it all goes at this point in time. And we're also subject to pretty much the same kinds of forces, the same kinds of market manipulation from people with vastly more resources who are able to pretty much just undermine what we're trying to do here. So that's very, very discouraging. But look, I'm still hopeful in the future. This is hopefully a temporary thing. I did watch a video from Charles Hoskinson here from Cardano. I'll link to that in the description as well. And he produced a video in response to these events, and I think he really echoed a lot of what I was thinking about it. Obviously, he frames it in the context of Cardano and the future of Cardano. Look, I don't know if Cardano is going to be the one to manifest these promises of a future crypto world. I don't want to be a true believer in anything. That's not something I like to do. But look, I'm glad someone is trying to build along those lines, and these kinds of comments and this kinds of view does give me some hope for the future. And the other big one for me, I think, is this shakes my confidence and probably a lot of people's confidence in stablecoins in general. And I mean, you can look back and say, well, the reason that UST failed is because it's an algorithmic stablecoin, and that just can't work no matter how good the algorithm is. It's just doesn't make sense. It'll never work. And I'm agnostic on that as a statement, but fine. Even if you accept that, there are warning signs for other stablecoins as well. So there are warning signs for UST of one sort. There are warning signs and risks related to other stablecoins. Look at Tether. It's the number 3 crypto. It's the number 1 stable. It's got something like an $80 billion market cap. It's many multiples of what Terra or UST was, and Tether has a multitude of problems in itself. It's not transparent, it's opaque, and by all accounts it's under collateralized, or it's collateralized using Bitcoin and other assets that may fluctuate. So it's by no means certain, and it's by no means stable. These risks have been talked about for many years, and if we've learned something here, it's that these risks can turn into reality. So what happens if Tether fails, and what happens to the entire crypto ecosystem if Tether fails? So look, my confidence in stablecoins is really low at the moment. I'm definitely not viewing them as the stable asset that they were in the past. And I think personally that what that means as far as how I operate in crypto is that basically I think that the only reasonable way of doing things is that when I make some profits in crypto, instead of holding that value in stablecoins, in order to invest back into the system at a later date when markets are lower and I can make a good investment, or when an investment opportunity comes in, I think the way that it makes sense to operate at the moment is just to pull any profits out of crypto, hold it in traditional finance, traditional bank account instead of stablecoins. Maybe that's too much of a overreaction, but I'm thinking that given what's happened here, I don't have too much confidence, and I definitely wouldn't have too much confidence if I was investing really large amounts. And look, I've been lucky here. I have definitely lost some money on Luna and on UST, but my holding wasn't massive, and it's not massive amounts of money. I've heard stories of much bigger losses, but even so, I'm not too confident about what stablecoins bring at this stage. And if that kind of sentiment is generally held, then I think it's a bad thing for crypto. So look, will Luna come back? Looking at Luna specifically, I think it's likely to repeg eventually. Let's look at this chart. You can see it's kind of dancing up and down. But look, the only way that this is going to be able to repeg, from as I understand it, is that after most of the capital has left the ecosystem, because there's a lot of people really trying to get out, trying to salvage their investments, and the confidence is really down. So I don't know if people are going to just sit there, hold their money in Anchor, hold their money in UST, while the price may or may not go to $1, may or may not go to $0. So looks like there's a lot of sell pressure. So it's not a matter of adding money to regain the peg to $1. I think if the peg hit $1 today, it would still not have the confidence of investors, and there will still be sell pressure as people try to get out of UST, put their money into something that they perceive as more stable and more safe. So what that means is that basically the market cap of both UST and Luna, they need to go down really far before there's any kind of return to stability. And that could take days, it could take weeks, it could take months, basically anyone's guess. And it could be kind of a return to where Luna started. And in fact, price wise, it's pretty much there. You take a look, we're back at kind of early day levels. So this is bargain basement prices for Luna, but I'm not sure if that means it's a good time to invest. I think it's a pretty risky investment at this stage. Yeah, and talking about UST specifically, like, if you think this is going to go to $1, like I said in my last video, there is still an opportunity here. If you have a really high appetite for risk, buying in at 50 cents and eventually doubling your money if it goes back to $0 by the matter of months or whatever it happens to be, that's not something that I have the balls to do. It's a really uncertain, really risky prospect. I did actually take a little bit of a stab at this while it was going down. It kind of went down to about 70 cents, started going up and recovering. I made a purchase, a really small purchase of like $100 worth of UST. It went up, it stabilized, things were looking great. And then not so much, it started to drop, and I resold at about the same or maybe a slight profit there. So look, it's possible to trade these swings, but it's probably about as risky as you could get at the moment. And similarly with Luna, you could call this the bottom, you could call it a bargain price. I think it's got a lot further that it can fall. So I wouldn't encourage anyone to buy at this stage, and I probably wouldn't buy at this stage either. Yeah, and then the other impact of this is if people do try this strategy, if a lot of people do try this, especially after the coin starts recovering, after UST starts recovering, if it does, and people have bought in low with the intention of selling high, that's just going to continue the downward pressure on UST, continue the sell, as people view it as kind of a short-term opportunity to make their money back at a high risk. That's going to prevent it from pegging as well. So this thing has risk all over it, massive amounts of risk, and I wouldn't be making this trade, but it is there, and I'm sure a lot of people are making it. And so long term, beyond this kind of narrow time horizon, can Terra recover? Well, look, Do Kwon, the founder, has come up with a plan, essentially, and I think he said the same thing as me, that really the price is going to have to drop down. Everyone who wants to get out has to get out, and that's the only thing that needs to happen before the repeg can happen, because it needs to happen with a much lower level of investment and without the downward pressure. Will that happen given everything else? I don't know. He's obviously a very confident and person about the future. He's trying to keep this thing alive. He's got views on rebuilding UST to be collateralized. This is all good stuff, potentially. But look, it's different to what we have at the moment. It's having a collateralized stablecoin is probably would have been a better idea to start out. In hindsight now, as it's always 2020, but trying to rebuild using a collateralized coin, trying to reinstate confidence and belief in Terra is going to be an uphill battle. Like, a lot of people have lost a lot of money out of this. As I've said, the money I've lost is more of a frustration than anything. It's not going to impact my life in any way at all. But I've seen reports of people losing thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions on this. UST was seen as a safe haven, a kind of stable coin. You can hold large amounts of money in there and it's pretty safe. A lot of people have lost, billions of dollars have been wiped out here. So this is real damage that's been done to people, and trying to kind of repair that reputation in the long term is going to be really difficult. I think the Terra ecosystem has a lot going for it. As I've said in my last video, it does have a lot of promise. It has a lot going for it. The focus is where I think it needs to be. If crypto is going to grow, it does have problems. It has problems around centralization and other things, but it does have some positive future prospects. Those don't just disappear, but the reputation here has been damaged, and I think it's been damaged. I'd be very surprised to see anything like the level of success we've seen in the past come back again. People have notoriously short memories in crypto, and in a couple of years' time, you never know. New people in crypto, a lot of turnover. People may have kind of forgotten. Terra may come back, but it's kind of that 2 to 5 year time frame before we really see anything. And I just don't know if it's going to be a really hard sell for people to put their money into this thing for any time in the near future. And so that's about it. Here we are, RIP Luna. And depending on who you ask, either no one could have seen this coming, it came completely out of the blue, or if you ask someone else, everyone knew it was coming. Everyone has perfect vision in hindsight. And look, these crypto chains, protocols, they're really complex. They're difficult to understand, and they're difficult for anyone with normal resources to kind of do the level of analysis that you need to really understand the risks and make informed investment decisions. So, we've learned a lot of lessons out of this, but in my opinion, the cost of lessons in crypto at the moment is becoming too damn high. So I think personally, I'm going to stick with these smaller DeFi protocols. Things I can completely break down and understand and explain to you guys, where I think I can find an edge. And I'll continue to share my analysis on those. I'll be working on more content along those lines soon. So apologies. Work and COVID has really hit me hard these last couple of weeks. I know my content hasn't been quite as frequent or as focused as I'd like. But, that's where I think my focus is going to be in terms of really applying myself to where I think I can find an edge and understand and break down these smaller protocols and not try and play in areas where you're dealing with people who have vastly bigger resources, and have the ability to create situations like we've seen with Terra Luna. So I guess for the near future, I'm going to be treating crypto in general with essentially with kid gloves, keeping investment amounts low, and trying to convert any profits to real cash, pulling them out of the system until we see a little bit more in terms of stability and confidence that we're going to need to see in the system if it's going to be safe and sustainable in the long term. So look, hopefully that's not all too negative. I want to be clear that I do believe in crypto for the future for a number of reasons. I'm very positive, but I think this has been a really big reality check for myself and a lot of people about what the real risks are, and what can happen when you're maybe complacent in this space. And I think it's important to have your eyes opened every now and then to just see what might happen, and to learn from the experience. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you weren't hit too hard by the Luna crash, and hope you're doing okay in the crypto crash in general. I think Bitcoin is down to, it's come up to 28,000 at the moment. It was down to 26,000 something. Things are not looking good. I think Bitcoin's down to 2020 levels. Looks like it's going to get a lot worse in general in crypto before it gets better. So, stay safe and take care, and I'll see you in the next video.